Good afternoon, good people. This is your host, Calvin Anderson, for the Check In With podcast. We are thoroughly moving through season 3, and I'm just so grateful for just all the guests that have come on. And today, she's actually our first part 2. We had Richa on the last time, and when you hear her first episode, you're going to say, yeah, Calvin, you had to get a part 2 with her. So today we're going to be speaking more on her app that she's created, which I'm telling you now, listeners, is a game changer, a life changer, and it really solidifies the cultivation of relationships and connection. The Walnut app, which, if we all know what a walnut is, and in terms of how it is inside, it's got the 2 sides, and when you open it up, inside is all the goodness. Her application literally does that and more. So, ladies and gentlemen, give another warm welcome to Richa Rival. Richa, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you again for having me for part 2 of this podcast.
Amazing, amazing. No, it is an honor to have you because every time we talk, it's just amazing, amazing. Richa, the Walnut app. Give us the layout. Why is it that you chose for it to be set aside and set in a way where there's different modules, there's different tasks, there's a note application, and there's probably more things I haven't even mentioned. But why did you lay it out in that way?
Yes, so the Walnut app has 2 sides to it. When you sign up, the first part that you will see on the home screen is modules. So this is where we have this bite-sized modules, kind of like Duolingo, where you will be able to learn, reflect, practice different topics that will help you get better at relationships. As you complete these modules, you earn points. And only after you're able to earn a certain number of points each day can you access Walnut Connect, which is where you can connect with other members of the community to either find a partner or to find a friend. And the reason why we have it this way is because this is how it should be. You should learn healthy relationship skills before you meet someone and before you choose the most important relationship of your life, which will be your significant other. And so we also ensure that you do this as part of your life every day, because strengthening your relationship skills is a lot like strengthening your muscle. Like when you go to the gym, you have to do it every day. You have to do it regularly to keep growing that muscle. And similarly with relationship skills, with relational intelligence, you need to grow that every day. And you also need to be reminded every day, especially because we are so wired differently. There's so much unlearning to do that you want to make sure that becomes part of your life, that becomes part of the way you think, the way you behave, and that takes time, which is why we've done it such that you do the learning first and then you connect. And we hope you do that every single day. One of the other elements to it is that we try to make it really interactive. So you're not just doing some boring learning like you're in school, but there's text cards, which is kind of like Instagram carousel posts where you're reading through like bite-sized nuggets on different topics, and then you're reflecting. So this is kind of like a reflect prompt, but there are many different options of how you have been behaving in the past or could behave, and you get to think about how you have been showing up in different situations. And then there's a journal prompt, so that's where you can enter text as you're thinking about things related to the prompt and the topic. There's like this drag and drop kind of thing where you can drag and drop the right responses to each other as you're learning topics. There's videos, there's quizzes where you can really understand how you behave in different situations and just get that self-awareness. So there's different types of information that you're absorbing as well. So that keeps it interesting and fun, and hopefully it has people going through the modules more. You also get badges as you learn each topic. So for example, if you finish all the modules in how to communicate in a healthy way, you'll get a healthy communicator badge. And these badges will be displayed on your dating profile so other users can see and celebrate the healthy relationship skills you've learned, and they can endorse it if they see that you are applying these skills And I think this is how dating apps should be, right? It shouldn't be on what your height is or what the color of your eyes is. It should be based on, do you know how to communicate well? Do you know how to show up in a healthy way in a relationship? And I think that's been the North Star of how we designed the entire app, and where we're rewarding people with the badges and points are in line with what will make them better at relationships.
Richa, what is your favorite thing about the application?
So I think I really like the different ways of interacting with it, because so before, when I was doing all of this for myself, it was through books. It was through like 400 pages of books. It would be through therapy. And it took me a long time to get to a point where it's like, okay, when I'm in this situation, what exactly do I do? I've read all of these books, I've done all of this work, but in this moment, what do I do? And I think that the modules kind of get the flavor of everything, give you very practical advice, and help you get through them quickly and in a more fun way. And I wish I had that when I was doing all of the inner work. And I also really like the badges, mainly because I feel like people are not celebrated for being good in relationships. People celebrate the hot guys, the hot girls. They celebrate the person that gets a lot of girls, that gets laid a lot. But what about the guy or the girl that is really good at communicating, that's really good at showing up in a relationship, that's emotionally available? And I feel like there needs to be more celebrating and more encouraging of these behaviors for it to become the norm. And so I think the badges do exactly that. People are matching and viewing profiles based on who's better at a relationship, and not something that has nothing to do with how the relationship is going to be in the future. So I think that I really like that this is what we are basing the app on, about just who's better at relationships, who's working on it, and who's doing that inner work to heal and show up for you as a better partner. And I just really like that.
I love
one other
Go
part
ahead.
that I do like, but it's a feature that's coming along, is that once the user finds a partner, we actually help them build that solid foundation in the early stages. Like once they find a partner, they can like link their accounts, and they can do the modules together, and they can do activities, ask questions that they should be asking in the first few months. And I think one of the reasons why this is also something that I'm really looking forward to is that dating apps right now, they actually want you to stay on the app. They want you to just swipe and keep going and stay single, really. But what we're doing is we want you to stay on the app, but we want you to go along the journey of dating, but then you find a partner, you build that relationship, and we want to help you build that foundation and help you sustain that relationship throughout your life. We're not just leaving you hanging. We're not just giving you these tools to find someone and then you figure it out by yourself. We are going to be there along the way, and we want people to know that we're starting from the beginning, where before you find your partner, we're there to teach you, but we're there when you find them, and we're there to help you build out that relationship. And I think this is also something that could be really groundbreaking and change the whole culture of dating apps, because it's not just dating anymore, but it's actually building out that relationship and making that change long term.
Yeah. Talk to me on long-term change, Richa. Talk to me on how the app is going to save a person's relationship in regards to communication and how to communicate, but the long-term aspect, what do you think, or what do you hope, to be honest, it's going to do it anyway, or what do you see the app doing for long-term relationships?
Absolutely. I think the longevity of a relationship first starts with how you choose your partner. And I think a lot of times, if you choose a partner based on your unhealed past, because that's familiar, you are already getting into a space where the relationship may not last, because you're going through these cycles of heartbreak time and again, until you probably have this moment where you wake up and you realize that you need to leave this relationship for your mental health and well-being. Maybe it is that you go to couples therapy and realize it. Maybe it is that you just go to individual therapy and then you realize, oh my goodness, that this is why I chose my partner. Maybe it's after years of damage that you've done to your children because of the home environment that's been created. And because we are starting right in the beginning, we're helping you get the tools to realize what has made you the way you are, that's helped you realize why you might choose people a certain way, why you might behave in a relationship in certain ways, and we give you the opportunity to change that. You might choose someone who is better for you, who fits you, who you are better. That way, you are able to create a healthier relationship as well, that you're laying a stronger foundation. If we are helping you resolve conflict, we are helping you become self-aware. It gives you the tools to understand how to be in a relationship in a way that's healthy for both of you. You're modeling a better relationship for your future children. You are creating a better home environment where everyone is emotionally regulated and are able to co-regulate and create a very safe space. That means your future children as adults will be more secure, will be more well adjusted in their relationships. They'll have better friendships. They will choose better partners. This is something that can have generational impact. Right now, there's a lot of talk around healing intergenerational trauma. And imagine ending that cycle. Imagine now it's intergenerational, healthy relationships, not trauma anymore, if you can fix that now before you start that journey.
You said a key word there. Speak to me on intergenerational trauma, Richa. For the listeners, what is it? What is intergenerational trauma? Once we are aware of it, how do we start to unpack it, would you say?
Absolutely. So intergenerational trauma is when a lot of unhealthy behaviors have been normalized over generations. So it could start with your grandparents. And if you really think about it, your grandparents lived through probably war times, probably times where, if you think about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they were in survival mode. They were not thinking about mental health, comfort, and any of that. They were probably thinking about how to get food on the table and things like that. So in a world like that, marriage was not for love. Marriage was for economic comfort, or just it was a social construct. It was an economic thing that you marry someone for, that they will be able to take care of you. It wasn't for love. So imagine a relationship like that back in the day. There might not be love in it. There might not be a lot of care. It might be just about putting food on the table. In war times, people are not very regulated. There might be a lot of physical abuse. We know back in the day, physical abuse was also very normalized. There might be sexual abuse. And not only that, when they have children, the children are probably subject to that as well. Alcoholic parents, a lot of angry, aggressive behaviors, pulling the belt out and hitting someone. These things were kind of normalized in many cultures, in many families. Of course, there are families that didn't have any of that, and it was great. But what was the norm? It was usually that a lot of dysregulated things went on in those times. And then their children, our parents, probably went through that. That was normal for them. And so the kind of life they might have given us may have been better than that. So a lot of the times our parents will think, well, it's not even that bad. But the truth is they have just given whatever they got. So maybe a lot of people grew up with emotional neglect, did not grow up with very available parents because they thought that was normal. At least we're not hitting them. At least we're not doing what our parents did to us. But that's still neglect. That's still emotional dysregulation. That there might still be abuse as well, because that is what they got and that's the only thing they know how to give. So it has to stop somewhere. if we then go on to continue to give that to the next generation, and maybe we'll think we're doing better. Maybe we'll think, okay, well, it's not that bad. We are available. We're here. But there might be other things that we are doing that may not be healthy. Then we are just continuing the intergenerational trauma throughout our lives and throughout their lives. I think the best thing we can do for ourselves is stopping that, healing from whatever happened to us in the past and learning how to do differently for ourselves and for our future generations to really stop that cycle and start a cycle where we are actually handing over healthier behaviors instead of the unhealthy stuff that went on in the past.
Richa, we had a discussion last time and I said, I thought you were a therapist. And you said to me, no, Calvin, it's all lived experience. Is that something that you would ever consider becoming? A psychologist, a therapist, any of those things? Or no? Are you just happy with, just, the lived experience? Because you have so much knowledge and so much depth. I know we've spoken about, how when it comes to you wanting to know something, you're in it. You go, you read, you study, you do your research, and you're locked in. Do you think you'd ever become a therapist or anything?
I'd love to, especially if I had something to show for all of the work I've already done. But at least for now, I think I'm happy with doing this app because it can reach more people than I could possibly as a therapist that would be meeting people one-on-one. So I'm hoping that it fulfills the same purpose of helping people and hopefully reaching more people and getting them to heal.
Let's go even further. Do you mind walking us through the application, the modules and everything so the listeners can hear? Because by the time this episode comes out, I'm 100% sure the app's going to just be going chew and going into the atmosphere. So yeah.
Absolutely. So where do we start? So once you sign in and get into the homepage, you will see these modules that are like tiles. And the first topic is actually attachment styles. So with the attachment style, it starts with learning about it, where we have text that talks about the topic. Then there's a quiz to help you understand what your attachment style is. And it helps you reflect on your behaviors when you might be triggered and things like that. So one of the reasons why I think I've started the app with attachment styles is because I think it's a really good way to start with that self-awareness. So attachment styles, which maybe our listeners already know about it, but it's basically how you learn to relate because of your childhood experiences. So it's kind of like a blueprint that you create in your mind of how relationships are, how you behave in relationships, how you think, how you feel, all of that. So if you've had a very neglectful or unavailable parent and you really crave that, you might be an anxious attacher, or you might have a very chaotic upbringing where there was a lot of ups and downs. They were there sometimes, they weren't other times. You might grow up very anxious and hypervigilant, wondering if someone will ever show up for you. You might grow up feeling like abandoned. So that abandoned wound might create anxiety in you. And then on the other side, if you had a lot of neglect, at the same time, your caregivers did not really help you regulate your emotions, did not really actually even just care about emotions. They kind of rejected emotions. And they wanted you to be too independent and not show your emotions. You might become more avoidant because the love and care that you needed at that point, you didn't get. So something in your head went, I have to learn to live without this. And so you might be more avoidant. On the other hand, if your home was not only chaotic, neglectful, but also unsafe, you might have a disorganized attachment style because now the people that you depend on for love and safety are also making you feel unsafe and you cannot trust them. That's when you have the love, but it's scary feeling. So that's disorganized. And then if you had none of that, if you had very present, very attuned caregivers that helped you regulate your emotions, that were present, that were there for you, you grew up feeling very secure. And the thing is about this attachment styles, even though it creates this blueprint when you're really young, as an adult, that's how you start viewing relationships. So if you have an anxious attachment, you might get triggered more in relationships when someone does not respond to your messages, when someone is being really hot and cold. You might suddenly just fixate on them and become hypervigilant because you're worried. The fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection heightens because now that anxiety is coming up, the same that you felt when you were younger. That's the familiarity that you start feeling in the relationship. With the avoidant, they start feeling the other way, where if anyone gets closer, they want to kind of pull away. They believe that, oh, I don't need a relationship. I don't like emotions. They're not in touch with their own emotions, nor can they have space for someone else's emotions because it's too intense. So a lot of times avoidants end up in very casual relationships, keeping things very shallow because anything deeper is scary for them. Disorganized attachment styles are ones that are like, I want this relationship, but I don't want it. I'd like to get closer, but it's scary. And they're just constantly in this push and pull battle within themselves because they don't know what they can trust. And in secure relationships, they will usually be very comfortable with closeness. They'll also be comfortable with space. They will not overthink everything because they're coming from a space of, I trust this person to be there for me. And I trust that if they are not able to, it's for some good reason. So the way they interpret things comes from a space of security, of trust. And so it's a lot easier for them to lean into closeness or give the partner space. Now, the thing is, attachment styles, one, are not permanent. And two, you're never just one attachment style. It's possible that maybe you'll have one dominant attachment style, but you will still have elements of the others. You might be secure in some relationships. You might feel avoidant in a few relationships, but maybe you're dominantly something else. But because these are changeable, you can work towards having a more secure attachment style.
Yeah.
So that's what we teach on the app. The app will get into what the different attachment styles are just so you understand and grow that compassion for yourself that, oh, this is why maybe I feel anxious, or this is why I have the fear of abandonment because I didn't have this when I was younger and I needed that from my parents. But it gives you the opportunity to shift that.
Yeah.
How can you go from feeling the fear of abandonment and feeling hypervigilant to things like someone not responding to your text, to a space where you are grounded, where you can reframe your thoughts into understanding that it's not personal? How can you ground yourself? How can you regulate yourself? How can you move to a habit where you're able to think and feel in a more secure way? So that's kind of why we started with attachment styles, because I think it's really a good way for people to understand what is the blueprint that I have right now.
Yeah.
How can I change it? And how can I do it with compassion for myself? And I think that's a really good way to start the process of healing. Then let's go into the second one.
Yeah.
So after we get into the attachment styles and we also explain the anxious avoidant relationship, which is a very common relationship dynamic that people get into, because of course, the anxious person is, what's familiar to them is someone who's unavailable. And for the avoidant, there is a need for the closeness that they're not really consciously aware of. So when they meet each other, there's an attraction because it feels familiar, scary. There's probably a lot of passion there, but there'll always be a push and pull dynamic where the anxious person will want more, the avoidant will pull away, and so on. And we educate our users about this because they need to know why they might be going into these patterns again and again.
Yeah.
But we also help them understand that if actually both the people come from a space of self-awareness, it can be a tremendous space for healing. Because if this avoidant person is able to stop and say, okay, I know this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to take steps towards getting closer. And I love this person, I'm going to make an effort, and is able to really understand their needs and express it in a way that the anxious person also feels secure, the anxious person is finally getting what they wanted in their childhood.
Yeah.
The avoidant person is finally getting what they wanted in their childhood. They've healed their inner child and they can be together in a very secure relationship, but only if they get to the point of self-awareness and healing together. This is why we talk about this very common relationship dynamic and how it can give a space of healing. The one after that is about understanding your needs, because surprisingly enough, a lot of people don't realize it. I think so everyone has emotional, physical, mental, like these needs, but they may not know, they may not be conscious about it, and they might not know how to express it. So we start with helping them understand their needs. We start with what are needs, what happens when they're not met. Then we help them reflect. So we try to help them reflect what were some needs that were not met in your past relationships? What were some needs that were not met in your relationship with your parents? What was it that you needed? I think even naming it helps, because then you can ask for that. If you don't name it, you don't know how to ask for it. Then it just shows up in a way that you might say things in passive-aggressive ways, but you don't know what the underlying need there is. So we work through the needs. Once we explain all of these things, once we help someone understand what their needs are, what their blueprint is, what their triggers are, then we get them to reflect on what their ideal relationship is. So this is where we help them reframe what they should be looking for in a relationship now that they know all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So if someone has had a list where, oh, I want someone who has this university education, I want someone who's this tall, and all of these things that don't matter, we help them take a step back and start asking them, okay, let's think about what is your goal in the relationship. Do you want to get married? Do you want kids? Do you want maybe like a dual income, no kids with dogs? Like what is that vision? Then how would you like the relationship to feel to you? You want to feel safe, you want to feel loved, you want to feel like you have each other's back. Like what are the values that you surround yourself in this relationship?
Yeah.
Now going from there, what are the qualities you need to develop to be in that relationship? You might say, I want this safe, calm, loving relationship, but you might be someone who's highly emotionally dysregulated. So maybe there are some things that you need to do within yourself to make yourself the partner that's capable of being in that kind of relationship. Then we go to what are the qualities you need in a partner.
Yeah.
So if you want this safe haven, this amazing, calm, peaceful relationship, and you've been going for highly ambitious men, for example, maybe there's a disconnect with what you want and the qualities that you say you want in a partner. So now we talk about what do you need in a partner. Then you will say, I want someone who's emotionally available. I want someone who can prioritize the relationship. I want someone who wants children. And if they want children, that means you want someone who knows how to emotionally regulate, who knows how to be emotionally mature, who might be able to help you with the household. So if you want these things, maybe there are other things that you might not get, like someone who's super ambitious and loud, who might not, I don't know, maybe you will have playing video games in common, but maybe they're not going to help you create the home that you want with children. So I think it's a lot about like reframing how those qualities will help you build a relationship you want. And then we get to deal breakers and things like that.
Yeah.
And this actually, this actually goes on to your dating profile as well. The answers that you give in the journal prompt for all of these questions of the lifestyle, how you communicate, how you resolve conflict, all of that gets extrapolated and put on your dating profile. So all the users can see and match based on that versus all the other things on other dating apps.
Yeah.
Then we get to healthy boundaries and how to communicate your boundaries, how to communicate your needs. And this is big.
This is very big. I think this is probably like one of the key features that I really loved about it, like boundaries.
It's really interesting because even boundaries, this was something that I didn't learn about until I went to therapy. I didn't know this existed because I grew up in a place where there was nothing like boundaries. Boundaries were non-existent. But it's so important because boundaries are how you basically teach someone how to treat you. It's literally giving them a map to say, this is what I allow in a relationship. This is what I don't allow in a relationship. This is what I'm okay with. This is how I want to be treated. It's so basic. And yet, this is not something that's taught in school, which I think can lead to a lot of hurt in relationships. I think not communicating your boundaries, firstly, not even knowing your boundaries, then not communicating your boundaries can break so many relationships.
Yeah.
Because you assume that the other person should just not behave like this, but you've never communicated it. You've never voiced what you are okay with, what you're not, in a kind, respectful way. You're not drawing a line. Then how are you supposed to build a relationship? How are you supposed to let the other person know how to treat you? Like, this is another thing about both communicating needs or boundaries, is that people believe that others should be mind readers. And that if a relationship should work or is good for you, the other person will just know. But there's so much to this because you're two people. You've grown up in completely different families, different environments, different cultures probably. You are wired differently. You've learned how to behave in different ways. You've been treated differently. And now you're coming together. You have different boundaries. You'll have different needs. And you cannot assume that the other person will have the same. So why not teach the other person exactly what you want, exactly what you need in a relationship, exactly how to treat you, what your boundaries are? Because then you can actually give the other person an opportunity to actually meet your boundaries and your needs. That's the thing. Like, if you don't communicate them, you're not even giving the person a chance to show up for you.
Wow.
You're just assuming that they should.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Yes. Assumptions are, the death of many things.
Absolutely. Like, even in some of my relationships, a lot of times I know that my friends or my partner might want to avoid conflict because it's just easier that way. But if they don't tell me what I'm doing wrong, how do they give me the opportunity to fix it?
Yeah.
And maybe it's just something so easy for me to fix, and then the relationship can get stronger. But if you're not giving the opportunity for it to get stronger, you're always going to be stuck in a cycle where you end relationships very quickly because you're not letting it get deeper. You're not letting it give you what you need. And then we get to nonverbal communication.
Good. Nonverbal communication. Let's go.
Because even though we're teaching people how to communicate your needs and boundaries, maybe some people may not be able to be as clear about what they are, how they are saying it. But there's an element of nonverbal communication or attunement where when you are really present with someone, you should be able to see their expressions, their tone of voice, to be able to understand if maybe something's making them uncomfortable, if maybe they need something in that moment, whether it is reassurance, whether it's validation. So I think the ability to be able to tune into that and see that can really strengthen relationships, because not everything may be said, but being able to tell makes you a very good listener, makes you more empathetic, makes you better at relationships. And it also makes the other person feel safe, that this person can tell when I feel uncomfortable or when I need something and they give that to me. I think that builds a lot of trust. Then after that one, we get into core beliefs.
This is good.
So that's where we start with teaching people what core beliefs are. These are beliefs about yourself that you've kind of carried on since childhood because of how you were treated.
Yeah.
So if you were neglected as a child, you might have internalized the belief that you are unworthy of love, or you don't deserve to be loved, or you're not enough, for example. And this core belief will stay with you throughout your life. And if it's a negative core belief, you will interpret different situations to confirm that belief. So, for example, you might not go for the job you want because you'll believe, well, I'm not good enough. But it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy because then you're not going to apply for it, hence you won't get it. Or, for example, in a dating situation, if you really find someone attractive and you have this core belief that you're not good enough, you might not want to go approach them. You'll just say, oh, well, why will they date me? But if you have a positive core belief, if you believe, well, why not? Why won't they? And you go and reach out and you ask them out, and they might say yes. So, with negative core beliefs, you will always interpret situations to confirm those beliefs. And so, you might show up smaller in the work environment, in your relationships. You might not choose the opportunities or the people that you deserve because you will keep yourself small. But if you have a positive core belief, you will go for more opportunities. You will take what you deserve because you believe you deserve it. And what we help them do through the reflect and the journal prompt exercises is we help them really think deeply about what their core beliefs are, how they might have been formed. We ask them, okay, what was the evidence? When did this happen that made you feel this way? Now let's think of the opposite of the core belief. So if you are thinking, I'm not enough, we make them switch that and say, okay, if you had to say, I'm enough, let's think about an evidence that confirms that. There has to be. The thing is, you've gone through your life just magnifying all of the parts that confirm this negative core belief. So how can we think about those parts that you're ignoring where maybe there's been evidence where you are enough? So then we ask them to write that down. And then we ask them to reframe how you're going to practice and keep thinking about more evidence that's opposite of that belief. And so we help you strengthen the new belief that's positive and that's going to be helpful in your life.
Very helpful.
So that's one of the other ones.
Yeah.
Then there's emotional regulation.
Richa, you need to, talk on that one because that is another key one that people need to hear about on the app.
So it's emotional recognition, then emotional availability, and then emotional regulation.
Okay, so please break down all three of those things because most people probably have heard just emotional regulation. Talk to them about the recognition and what was the other one you said, the emotional
Recognition,
Yep.
emotional availability,
availability.
and emotional regulation.
Please.
Okay, so emotional recognition is being able to just understand your emotions.
Yeah.
So they say you have to name it to tame it. So to be able to name your emotion. So a lot of it is about also expanding your vocabulary
Yeah.
to express what you're feeling. That's not just happy or sad. There's frustrated, there's overwhelmed, there's surprised, there's blissful. There's so many words to it. Recognizing what you're feeling is an important skill because even just naming it can make the emotion a bit less intense.
Yeah.
Especially when it's a negative one. Also, what we explain in emotional recognition is the importance of emotions.
Yeah.
So emotions are a part of you that flow through you, that are messengers into your inner world. But a lot of times we've been taught that emotions can be bad or emotions should be suppressed. This is the normal messages that we get from society. But it's really about being able to sit with it, being able to understand what these emotions are telling you. So anger is a helpful emotion because it's still giving you a message. It's telling you when someone has crossed a boundary. or if someone is not meeting your needs. It's healthy to feel that anger. The only thing is, how do you cope with it is what makes it unhealthy or healthy. A healthy way to cope with something like anger is maybe screaming in a pillow, maybe punching a pillow, maybe going for a run, whatever works for you, but helping you work with it. And then that gets you to a place where you can communicate clearly what has gone wrong. Whereas physical violence or aggression or screaming at people, that is an unhealthy way to express it. Similarly, things like joy or sadness. Sadness is one that people don't want to feel, but it's an important emotion. It also tells you when you're feeling a loss, you're feeling sadness, you're grieving, you might be feeling like something is not right. It's telling you something. So are you able to tune into it and really feel it to be able to let it go, to let it pass to a point where you're able to move on to the next emotion that you're going to feel, because that's what it means to be human. So I think we start with emotional recognition because we want to help people first get to what are emotions and why it's okay to feel them, especially for people that are more avoidant, because they need to get more comfortable just feeling it. We give them exercises to help them not only name it, but also, where do you feel it in your body?
Mm.
Can you give it a color?
Yeah.
Like, can you sit with it? Are you comfortable sitting with it? Or do you just kind of want it to go away? Like, an emotion by itself, there was a book that I was reading about this. It's called Letting Go. And they say an emotion by itself passes within 90 seconds. It's really the analyzing, the suppressing, and all of that stays longer.
Yeah.
So are you able to sit with it for the 90 minutes? Just feeling it. So we help people get there with the module emotional recognition. Then emotional availability. This is a big one as well, because people don't realize how they are showing up for other people and how accepting they are being of the other person's emotions and allowing that to flow between them in a relationship. So in a relationship, it's really a flow of emotions through each other, between the two of you. And there are a lot of strategies that people use, unknowingly, of course, to stay a bit disconnected, because giving fully, being vulnerable, being in a space of connection is scary. And people are not aware of this. They might not be as good listeners as they think they are. So it's like, do you really listen in a conversation? Do you tune into what they are saying? Or do you think about what you want to say next?
Yeah.
When someone asks you something like emotionally deep, do you deflect? Do you just make a joke about it and let it go? Do you use a lot of humor and sarcasm to just keep things surface level? Because anything deeper is scary. There's a lot of things that people do to just keep things very surface level because they're afraid to get deeper.
True.
And they don't realize that that's stopping them from building a deeper connection.
Yeah.
There might be other things as well that they are so used to doing, like dissociating, just kind of zoning out when an emotion gets too intense. Or they might be very used to intellectualizing everything. That's something that I am definitely guilty of. Absolutely. This is why I read so many books about it and everything, because it was easier for me to intellectualize and think about what's wrong and think about the emotions than actually feeling it. So I think a lot of times people can get into this cycle of, okay, I know what's wrong with me, but are you able to feel it and like truly let it pass through you? I think also a lot of people use very thick walls between them and other people through rigid boundaries, because these are people that find it hard to give or receive support because, no, I never ask people for support, or I cannot do this for you because my needs are very important. It kind of gets into a more selfish category where you really build this wall between you and people because you're not able to compromise or do the smallest things that might need connection and give and take. This is also where we teach people about independence versus interdependence.
Yeah.
And what's a healthy interdependence that's not codependence. So it's a lot about allowing you to safely get to a place where you're able to be vulnerable and safely get to a place of closeness. Some of the other things that people do to stay emotionally kind of detached is having unrealistic expectations. So you might fantasize about some perfect guy or girl, some perfect relationship that does not exist, just to feel like something better is out there at all times. And so you'll never allow yourself to just give into whatever current relationship you're in, because you'll feel like, well, this is not going to last anyways. It's not that perfect relationship that I want. This might be even fantasizing an ex, like a previous relationship, or just one that you imagine. There could be a lot of self-sabotaging just because you believe that you don't deserve something. You'll just pull away before you even give it a chance. You might also be attracted to unavailable partners if you are emotionally unavailable, because it's easier for you to feel like you're giving yourself fully to someone who's never actually going to be yours.
Wow.
So it could be married people. It could be just someone who doesn't actually like you. You might fixate on them because it feels easier, because you know you're not going to get it back. And so there's just so many elements to it that people may not be conscious of, which we try to help them through.
Yeah.
And that's when we get to emotional regulation.
That's when we get to emotional regulation. Yeah.
That's when we help them regulate their emotions. We help them stay grounded in the emotions. We help them understand how you can cope with each emotion that you feel in a healthy way. And we also help them understand what co-regulation is. Because as much as self-regulation is important, when you are in a relationship, you are going to feed off of each other's energy and emotions. How can you get to a space where you can put your hand on each other's heart and just breathe together?
Richa, that sounds so... Sorry, keep going. That sounds so powerful.
Yeah, because usually if you learn this in childhood, if you've seen your parents help you regulate your emotions, then you'll know how to do it for someone else. But if you haven't, who's going to teach you? It's totally normal in a relationship to feed off of each other's energy and emotions and to help each other feel more grounded. It's just, we are human beings, and that's how we are wired. Through touch, you can actually feel the other person's pulse, and that itself can be grounding. So how do you use that to make connections better with the people that you love and are in relationships with?
Yeah.
Then we get into bits for connection.
Okay.
So this one is a concept by the Gottman Institute, where they did a study where they studied a lot of couples to see which couples lasted longer.
Yeah.
And I think they said that the couples that lasted longer was because of how they responded to the bids for connection. So basically, bids for connection are just little ways that you try to connect with someone. It can be physical, where you try to hold someone's hand, or you reach out to hold someone's hand. It can be like a shared experience that can be like, oh, hey, look at the moon. It's so beautiful. Or it could be like sending reels to each other on Instagram. That's a very common one. They're little moments of just wanting to connect with the other person. And what signals longevity and happiness and fulfillment in the relationship is how many times people turn towards the bid. So do you respond positively to it?
Yeah.
When someone reaches out to hold your hand, do you hold it? Do you put your arm around them? When you share something with them, do they reply? Do they respond positively? When you say, oh, hey, look at the beautiful moon, do they come and say, oh, wow, yeah, it is beautiful? Or do you just say, oh, I'm not interested? I think turning into these, leaning in, is what makes people feel really fulfilled in relationships. Whereas turning away, like dismissing them, ignoring them, can make people feel really rejected. And there are these very small and subtle moments that can lead to this underlying feeling of your needs not being met. So this module really helps them understand what bids for connection are, how to identify when someone's making a bid, because we're humans and we may not understand, how to turn towards them more than turn away to start building that trust and safety in the relationship, and also how to communicate your bids for connection better. If you are with someone, especially if you're with someone on the spectrum who might not really understand these cues, how clearly can you state that, hey, I'm trying to connect with you. Can we do this together? That might help the other person understand your intention. So it's really about understanding this whole topic and how you can get better at leaning in instead of leaning away. Once we complete that, we also talk about how bids are made by anxious attachers versus avoidant attachers. So, like people that are more anxious might need more validation and reassurance.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the bids for connection might be, do you still love me? Are you mad at me? Like maybe you had a bad day or you were busy, but the other person might interpret it as you might be mad at them. So they might worry that you upset them, and their bids might be more reflective of that they might need some validation. They might need some reassurance. Whereas an avoidant attacher might have bids that might seem more surface level, like, hey, do you want to go to the museum together? Or they might just send a funny meme instead of saying, I miss you. So understanding these nuances of how people might be sharing their bids for connection in different ways is something that we explain. And then we go into actually separate modules on validation and then reassurance. Because this is so important. To be able to learn to validate yourself, to be comfortable feeling those emotions, to be able to also validate these emotions in someone else. And validation is really just telling someone, I see you, I understand. And it does not mean you have to agree with them. It's literally just saying, I see you.
I see you.
So being able to access that part in you to be able to give that to someone is an important one. And then about reassurance as well. Reassurance, I think a lot of people, if they were not given reassurance in childhood, they don't know how to give that to someone else. And a lot of times they actually reject the need for reassurance because they think this person's being too needy, being too clingy, is too insecure. If this person is feeling that, it's probably because a need is not being met.
Yeah.
And if this person is someone that you want to build a relationship with, why not give them the reassurance? And reassurance is telling someone, we're okay. We're okay. Everything's going to be okay. And just giving them that safety. Why sometimes it can be so hard for people to just be able to give that safety because they've not received it themselves.
So true.
And the thing with reassurance is the more you give it, the less the other person will need it.
That might have to be the quote that I use for this episode.
Yeah, it's an important one because people think, oh, you shouldn't need reassurance, and so I'm not going to give it to you until you learn. It's like tough love. That does not work. In a relationship where you want to build a feeling of safety and love, you want to make the other person feel safe.
Of course.
And the more you make them feel that, the more they'll need it in the future because the safety is just there. Whereas on the other hand, if you always reject their needs for reassurance, that's when they're going to need it a lot more. It's going to like heighten the need because they don't feel safe. So why not make them feel that everything's okay more often now to be able to then get to a point where they just know you're okay. And it's a beautiful place to be. The other big one is conflict resolution. So our modules on conflict resolution, like first help you understand how you tend to behave in conflict. Like, are you a collaborator? Are you a peacemaker? Are you someone who just tries to appease the other person and just kind of like wants to push everything under the rug? Or are you the more volatile one who likes to make everything big and you want to talk about it now? So I think we help people understand and become aware of how they tend to behave in conflict. And then we help them go through how to actually get to a point of resolution. So not only do we give them strategies, but we help them understand what the energy behind it should be. So when you are in a conflict, a lot of times people think the existence of conflict itself means the relationship is doomed, means this is the wrong relationship for me. And that's where they get to a place where they might break up and start thinking that this is not the relationship they want to be in. But I think there needs to be a huge shift in how people see conflict. I think conflict is the huge opportunity for people to actually become stronger in relationships, because you can get to a place where once you resolve it, you know how to be with each other better. And I think for that to be effective and to be resolved in a healthy way, it has to be approached from an energy of, I love you, you love me, or we are both friends and I might hurt you, you might hurt me because we're humans, but we are here for each other and we're going to make this work. How can we do this? If conflict is approached from a place of, there is love here and we might hurt each other, but we are going to work on it anyways, it can be transformational. It can be healing, and it can help the relationship get to a place where it is thriving instead of a place where it would break. So I think people need to shift their mindset on from conflict being bad to it being an opportunity to connect better with the person you love. And there's many more topics.
There are many more topics.
There's many more topics, but I think we could be here for days talking through them.
Richa, thank you so much for coming on today. What more can you tell us about the Walnut app?
You can go onto our website, www.findyourwalnut.com. And that's where you'll see the links to download it. And so please download it, try it, and give us any feedback to make it better, or just what you think about it, so we can add more features that align with what our users want. You can send me an email at Richa, Richa, at findyourwalnut.com.
Listeners, I have been your host, Calvin Anderson. We have had the exceptional Richa Rival today, just speaking about the great things that she is embarking on. Listen, go and download the application, go and test it, go and see how you feel about it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, just to announce some great news. The Checking With podcast will be sponsored. We'll be going into partnership with Miss Richa Rival and the Walnut app. So yeah, there's going to be content from myself, from a therapeutic aspect, and yeah, the application will be on my website or on my my profile as well, so you can access it and intertwined into all the things I'm doing. So yes, that is the announcement. I'm so happy she's our first sponsorship and first partnership, and she was like, yeah, Calvin, of course. And I'm telling you, greater things are coming for Miss Richa Rival. But yes, have a lovely day, listeners. Have a lovely week. Take care and God bless.